Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am your host, Bob Benham. Thank you for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. It's time for another episode, and I appreciate it that you've listened and tuned in. We've got some news to cover on this one. The latest is the Donald Trump, Elon Musk feud that is being generated by the media, and like there probably is a little bit of a feud going on between the two. Um, Most of it, I believe, is probably being generated by the media, trying to get it to be really something more than what it really is. Um, I don't know. I mean, is there something there? There could be. Um, yeah, I'm guessing that it's more um, just to kind of to satisfy the media, get them to get all this going and kind of um, have something there to talk about for the media, because these idiots will fall for all that crap in a second, and they did. Um, I think that, I mean, I really think that President Trump and Elon Musk are much smarter than these morons, which we know they are already. And they've got this stuff generated to uh, help with uh, getting Musk his fortune back and getting Tesla back and getting Musk kind of back with being in line with um, the liberals, kind of getting more back to center, maybe center left. So that way, the liberals will go back to buying his cars again and stuff like that. Not a bad move. Not a bad move at all. I think that that's a smart thing to do, because I know conservatives, the majority of them, don't want anything to do with electric vehicles. Um, and I'm one of them. I have zero interest in an electric vehicle. It's just how it is. I think that I remember seeing an advertisement from the early 1900s saying that electric vehicles are the way to go and all that stuff, and battery technology, and back then it had a range of like 150 miles or whatever. And I'm going, well, let's see, we haven't gained much more than that in 100 and something years. Something's wrong. I don't have faith in electric vehicles. Uh, Plus, after seeing how much damage they do to the environment, with the fires, with the weight of the vehicles, with um, the danger they are to uh, people, with them just spontaneously starting on fire. Um, you see these cars just starting on fire in the driveways, in the garages, um, and these lithium ion batteries. They are not safe. They are not safe at all. The FDNY in New York They are constantly putting out PSAs saying, "Do not store these in your house. Do not store I mean, get them out." Because they start fires out of nowhere. Um, they're just not safe. And you see, FDNY is constantly putting out videos from people's security cams showing these batteries just starting fires. Um, and it's just crazy that we have this stuff out here. Um, and I don't like the fact that they are pushing this stuff on us. When something's pushed on you, there's a reason for it. And usually it's because somebody stands to make a lot of money behind it. And it's usually the politicians and their cronies, the ones that are lobbying them, that stand to make a pile of money. And forget it. It's like a movie on TV or on it comes out. If it's pushed to the hilt, something's wrong with it. It's not that good of a movie. Very rarely is it good, but mostly no. So I generally don't go see that movie. I avoid it. I just try to kind of, you know. So yeah, I don't like stuff that's pushed on me. When something's pushed on me, that's a red flag. I go, wait a minute, something's not right about it. Check into it very, very closely and with detail. So yeah, that's just my personal way of looking at it, and it's just personal experience from doing stuff. I mean it and seeing the way things are. Um, it- it's just how things have been um, over the years. When something's been pushed, it hasn't been good. It's like another perfect example, Obamacare. That was pushed on us, and that has been the oh one of the biggest disasters on this country that's ever been unfolded. And here we are, still dealing with it. And it is, they called it the Affordable Care Act, and that's the most unaffordable thing I think I've ever seen. Um, I had to go on it for a year, and just for me, I mean, I was paying, uh, what was it, 18 over $1,800 a month just for me for medical insurance, and it was an HMO plan. It wasn't even a PPO plan where I could go anywhere I wanted to. It was an HMO plan, and I couldn't believe it. I was stunned and shocked that was what I had to pay. I said, "This is insane. Why am I paying that? Why do I have to pay this kind of money?" And that was like one of the cheapest plans I could find. It was nuts, absolutely nuts. So yeah, and for somebody, that was, and at that time, I was only taking home, I think it was like $3,600 on my pension. So more than half of my pension each month was going towards medical insurance. How do you live when you're paying more than half for medical insurance. You can't. You can't live. I was just, I for the first time in my life, I was I was ready to go to war against our government because of what they were doing to us. That was not freedom. That was nowhere close to freedom. I didn't have the freedom to choose anything. I didn't have the freedom to live anywhere, be anywhere, go anywhere, do anything. Um, I was the way it's set up, and it's still the way it's still set up is I had to be in my home zip code. Period. What good is that? What good is that? If you can't travel, you can't go anywhere because if you go somewhere and if something happens, all you have is emergency, maybe emergency care, maybe not. It depends on what the insurance company says. And you know how these insurance companies are. They don't want to approve of anything. They got somebody sitting back there in the back room going, nope. And they know absolutely nothing about you. Nothing. And don't care one bit. They just know that if they say no, they get extra money in their paycheck. That's all it is to them. I say no, I get extra money. It's good enough for me. That's all it cares about. That's all I care about. So, yeah, no, I, uh, it's just crazy with how they play these games, and I'm to the point that it's still we need a redo. We need a redo in this country. We need to go back and just start over. All the laws that are on the books, redo. All the regulations on businesses, on people, on redo. Gone and redo. Because the lawyers have effed up this country to no end. To no end. And that was one of the things that the founding fathers did not want to happen. They didn't want the lawyers to screw this country up. They didn't want it to happen, but that's what happened. And now we're dealing with it. You can't do anything without having a lawyer. You can't do anything. My father passed away over 2 years ago. And he had a very simple will. Everything after settling debts and whatever, and I mean, my father didn't have very much. All he had was his house. But after settling the house, whatever was left in the equity of his house was to go to his grandchildren. His children, he said he did not want anything going to his children. And I had no problem with that. I don't need his money. I have exactly what I need. I'm fine. I don't need his money. And I told him when he was alive and when he was doing his will, and his will was old. It was done back in the 1990s. And I told him back then, Dad, if you're doing a will, please don't include. I don't need anything. And I mean, I was working back then, so I hadn't had my stroke yet, and all that. So it was like, hey, I'm doing good. I've got money. I've got a job. Money's coming in. I'm living fine. I don't need anything. And the same was with my brother and sister, and we were all three like, Dad, if you want to leave it to the grandkids, that's fine. And I had no problem with it going to the grandkids because, I mean, it was my nieces and nephews. I knew I wasn't having children, so no, I was out of the loop. Nothing was going to me, or so there was nothing. I mean, there's just I nothing for me or any part of if I got with my marriage or anything like that, or so it was. It was just that part of the Benham side. That was it. And that was fine. I didn't have that was no big deal. So very, very simple. And it's taken over almost 2.5 years to get this settled because the lawyers had to do it, and they screwed it up. They kept screwing things up, drawing it out. Oh, here, well, you need to sign this form, and that will set this up, and should take care of all this, and then 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, they send the exact same form out, exact same form. I'm talking identical wording. Well, now all of you guys got to sign this form, and all the signatures got to be on the same form. Okay, why didn't you do that the first time? Oh, well, we kind of screwed up, and we didn't realize we had to put it all on the same form. Okay, well, 6 months later now you've been getting paid to do whatever. And then here comes another form. Oh, well, we need this form signed. It is just so frustrating. So frustrating. And I mean, 2.5 years. And I finally got the sign. And the worst part about it was they have their fees and expenses bill that's being taken out as part of the settlement of the estate. And that bill was ridiculously high. And I mean, I was stunned beyond belief with how high that bill was. And I mean, just crazy. Just crazy. And I'm thinking, this was a simple will. Should have taken no more than probably 6 months to a year to get it settled. Yeah, okay, there were a couple complications that crept up and uh, kind of extended things a little bit. And okay, but it shouldn't have made their fees and expenses as expensive as it is, as a, they're showing. That's just my opinion. That I mean, it just they're just things just don't add up. But it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing. I mean, there isn't anything I can do about it. But that's just how it is, and that's what it's going to be, and nothing I can do. All I know is I want it over with. I want it out of my hair. I want it out of my life. I want it done and over with. Um, so that part of stress in my life is done. I don't have to worry about it. My dad can rest in peace. I can rest in peace. And uh, I just don't need that stress anymore. Um, I mean, I wasn't the executor of the will. I had no part of it or anything. Um, I mean, I really didn't. I mean, I was out of the loop. I didn't have to even be kept in the loop. But my sister and brother and I, um, my sister was the executor of the will or executrix of the will. Um, God bless her. Ugh, she went through hell, literally. I don't know how she did it, but she did. Um, and I can't thank her enough for what she did. But the she and um, my brother and I, we even though she was the executrix, we all agreed that we were going to discuss um, any decisions, and that the three of us would agree on the decisions that were made. Um, and I got to hand it to her for doing that. She didn't have to. It was all her. She could have made all the decisions on her own, and nothing that my brother and I could have done. But she didn't, and she included us in on the decisions. And I applaud her for that, and I thank her for that. I really do. That I'm I can't thank her enough for doing that. Um, because it means a lot. It really does. It just shows the cohesiveness of my sister and my brother and myself, and that means the world to me after all these years. So yeah, it's good when you can say that, especially at our ages in life. You don't see that very often with families now, and especially nowadays. So anyway, back to what I a couple more topics that I wanted to discuss today. Um, one of them is this. I am tired, beyond tired, and sick and tired of seeing about all this damn anti-Semitism going on. Um, if you keep chanting "Free Palestine" and this "from the river to the sea" crap, and if you support that, um, why don't you fly over there? Why don't you go into Gaza and let's see how long you last. Um, I want to see. I want to see how long you last there. Um, why don't you try to talk to one of those Hamas terrorists and see how long you last with them? And go find Hezbollah while you're at it. Yeah, I want to see you do that. Um, just just give them a ring. Go find them. They'll be. I'm sure they're willing to talk to you and discuss things with you. They're very open about it. Um, and they're open-minded people. They'll discuss, and they're willing to change. Yeah. You'll be lucky if you walk out of there alive. Oh my goodness, these people are so ignorant. And they are just plain moronic, stupid. I don't know what else to say because they have, I mean, to sit there and support terrorism and it's puzzling to me because they did a poll of the Palestinian people, and it wasn't long ago that this poll was conducted. And over, it was like around 70%, over 70% support Hamas. So you're supporting a people that support the terrorists that are committing these atrocities against their own people and the Israelites. Okay. Um, I have a problem with you. I have a big problem with you. I'm not Jewish. I'm Christian. In fact, I'm Catholic. My late wife was Jewish. Interesting combination. But we lived our lives and we each lived our life within our religions. She lived as a Jew and I lived as a Catholic. And we had no problem with each other about that. I did go to temple with her for her services at the synagogue, and she did go with me to the Catholic Church for Mass and stuff like that. We had no problem doing that. In fact, I learned more about how Jesus Christ's message is so rooted in Judaism because he was a Jew, and so it started to make more sense to me, and how how his message was worded, framed everything, and it was all because it was all rooted in Judaism. And so it, like I said, being the fact that I went to synagogue and heard the Torah read to me, it made Jesus's word make sense. Catholic Church probably didn't like that and wouldn't like that, but that's just that's their problem. In fact, I had a falling out with the Catholic Church anyway because when I went to seminary back in the mid 80s, I had um, give a homily one Sunday morning, and it I talked about eating meat on Friday during Lent. And I said, "Who ate meat on Friday?" And of course, nobody raised their hand. And I said, "Oh, come on." I said, "I did." I said, "I had pepperoni in my pizza the other day." I said, "I forgot about it being Friday. I didn't have just a cheese pizza. I had pepperoni on it." I said, "So come on, who had meat on their pizza, or who had forgotten and had meat on Friday?" And of course, the hands started to come up a little bit. I said, "I just want you to know that you're not going to hell for having meat on your pizza or having meat on Friday during Lent, even though you're supposed to not have meat on Friday." And all you heard was this collective gasp. Oh, oh boy. Like, oh, he said something. This is not, you know. And I said, "Let me explain to you why." I said, "Because it's not God's law, it's church law. It's church law that you can't eat meat on Friday. It's not God's law that you can't eat meat on Friday." I said, "God understands. God didn't sit there and say, 'Hey, don't you eat meat on Friday.'" I said, "This is something the church came up with because there was shortage of meat. So they said, 'Hey, you need to eat fish on Friday.' So because they did that, they felt they needed to have a punishment for it. So they said, 'You're going to go to hell if you don't eat meat on Friday, or if you eat meat on Friday, you're going to go to hell.'" No. Well, after I said that, I got called into the seminary director's office and I got chewed out. You can't say that. I said, why? Did I say something that wasn't true? Well, no. I said, then what was wrong with what I said? You just can't say that. What it boiled down to was I can't say anything against the church as a priest. I'm not allowed to say anything against church law. I'm not allowed to say that, it's okay to eat meat on Friday, even though it's against church law and not against God's law. So, even though I didn't agree with it, and we got into a pretty heated discussion about it, the provincial of the order I was studying in showed up at the seminary a couple days later, and they had me have a sit down with him. And let's just say that discussion was even worse with him than it was with the director of the seminary. And it got very heated, very loud. And it ended up with him telling me I was too radical for the Catholic Church and for the priesthood, and that the priesthood was not something for me. And I looked at him, I said, you know what? I think you're right. And I got up and I walked out. And I also walked away from the church. And I haven't been in a Catholic church, but maybe 10 times in the last 45 years since. And it's not because I don't believe in the Catholic Church, because I do. I just don't believe in where the church is headed and some of the things they've done, if that makes sense. And it's just like, it's governed just like the country. Some of the things the Pope has done, I don't agree with. And I don't believe it falls within, with what God would say. And I don't believe it falls within God's teachings. When you read the Bible, it's right there. So it's pretty plain. It's not hard to figure out. So that's just how I am. That's what I believe. I've had a couple years of theology. I've studied all the religions. So it's where I am. It's what I believe, and I'm pretty firm about it. Um, and I'm a Catholic. Yes, I'm just a non-practicing Catholic. Um, and the way I feel about the Catholic Church and the direction that I feel about the Catholic Church, um, especially, I really believe Pope John Paul II was the best pope in my lifetime. Um, this new pope, um, I'm still waiting to see um, how things are going to shake up with him. Um, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm glad finally we have an American pope. Um, it only seems that it's been more than overdue um, to have an American pope. Um, so uh, I just pray for him, and I pray that the right things occur with him. Um, that's all I can say. Uh, Back to the anti-Semitism. I am just disgusted beyond belief that this is occurring, especially in the United States. Um, for goodness sake, Israel is our closest ally. There is absolutely zero reason this should be going on here and even tolerated. It shouldn't even be tolerated. Um, these idiots should be that are doing it um, are absolutely um, guilty of treasonous acts because they're supporting terrorism. Period. End of story. I mean, there's nothing more about that. They are supporting terrorism. They are not supporting the United States or our Constitution. Um, they don't belong in this country. Um, they need to be shipped out. If you don't put, if you support that crap, you need to be gone. And that's that. It's just that simple. It's that simple. There's no. It's that simple. If you're caught wearing that garbage cafe, whatever they call it, if you're caught saying the words you free Palestine, if you're caught saying whatever, holding signs, bye. Bye. You're gone. See ya. We don't need you here. We don't need that crap here because you're not an American. You're not. You support that. You're not an American because Americans do not support terrorism. Period. We support freedom. Terrorism is not freedom. Terrorism is is just flat out fascism. The terrorists are fascists. And for you to support that makes you one of them. Think about that. Put that little bit of brain in your head to work. Think about that. To hurt a people that has been already hurt enough that they lost their country and had to have it given back to them after World War II. And for you to say, well, we need to have a two-state solution. No, we don't. Palestine does not deserve its own state. They've never had their own nation. They've never established their own nation. They don't deserve one. They're lucky they've got what they got. Israel was gracious enough to give them that. And they screwed it up. People, you're so screwed up in your heads that you can't see that. If you go back and look at pictures of what the Israelis gave the Palestinians originally, and then look at how they screwed it up. So all you gotta do is look at the pictures. It ain't hard to figure out. And you support that. You support that. You're not an American if you support that. You're not. You can claim free speech, whatever, all you want. You're not an American if you support that. That is terrorism, period. You support a group that killed 1,200 plus Israelis? I don't want you as a friend. Period. I don't want you as a friend. If you support a group that killed 1,200 Israelis, no. Where's your head at? And to claim that it's just a rebellion for freedom or whatever you want to claim. Get out of here. Get out of here. This is the arguments that are being made about this stuff is wacky as can be. It's just like the Democrats and their garbage arguments that they have right now with the stuff in going on in our country. Everything's just to be disruptions against President Trump, period. They're just a disruptor. That's all they want to do because they don't have anything to be or not to be, but to offer a solution themselves. They have no solutions to anything. They just create the problem. They don't have a solution to it. They create the problem and then claim they have the solution to fix the problem so they can get reelected. So that way they can create more problems. That's the only thing. And unfortunately, right now, I mean, the Republicans aren't any better. How many bills have you seen the Republicans send to President Trump for signature since he's been in office, other than the Lake and Riley Act? I haven't seen him hold public ceremony for any bills to be signed. They keep talking about, oh well, we're gonna take care of the daylight savings. We're gonna take care of this. We're gonna take care of that. Yeah, we agree with President Trump on this. We agree with him on that. We're gonna do a bill about it. Blah, 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 blah. Where is this crap? Where's the bills on it to get it done? Get it in code. Make it code. Make it law. Where is it? You idiots are hardly even working. You've been off more than you've been in session. It's ridiculous. No wonder why there's no bills hitting his desk. You're not even debating anything. You're not even taking anything up. Talk about useless. No wonder why the people have an opinion of you that's lower than dirt. And Republicans, I've never, the only time that I was proud to be a Republican was when President Reagan was in office. After that, no. I found the true colors of the Republicans after that. And I said, no way. I don't want any part of that. I don't want any part of either political party in this country. None. Because they are corrupt as hell. Both of them. I don't trust any of them. They talk a good game. Oh, yeah. They talk a great game. And I'm talking even the ones that are out of politics, supposedly. They get on these TV shows and, oh, yeah, they need to be doing this and need to be doing that. They could be doing that. Oh, yeah, they talk a great game too, even though they're not in office. But what's getting done? Nothing. Nada. Zero. Zilch. And they're not going to do anything. It's going to be like President Trump's first term. 2 years of having the House and the Senate and the presidency, and zilch is being done. They don't want him to have any kind of victories whatsoever. And victories I'm talking about getting any kind of legislation done that is actually productive to get this country rolling in the right direction again. Because the Republicans want it destroyed just as bad as the Democrats. If you don't believe me, just look at the last 4 years and how they were in cahoots with the Democrats and with what Biden was able to accomplish. It's crazy. Look what they did with Obama when he was in office. You think I'm crazy? I'm not crazy. I just see what they're doing. And that's why I don't want anything to do with them. That's why I declare myself a conservative. They will not do anything to give any kind of what would be considered a victory for President Trump. They will not pass any legislation to codify anything. That would help the conservatives. And that is the most stupid thing in the world. And that's why they'll lose the midterms again. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And they have no one to blame but themselves. And I would be willing to bet, too, that they'll lose both houses. They'll lose the House of Representatives and they're going to lose the Senate because they're that dumb. And then the impeachment processes start all over again. Oh, we got to get Trump, blah, 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 blah. People, unless we press our government to do something, it's not going to get done. And with that ends this episode. All I've got to say is watch your backs. Be aware of your surroundings. Be vigilant. And take care of yourselves. This has been Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am Bob Benham. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I really do appreciate it. Um, please tell your friends to give a listen if you liked what you heard. And thanks again. God bless the United States of America. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye bye.